Hi folks, this is Jason. Hope you're okay today. We're continuing our series on Jesus and the Eyewitness Gospels as Eyewitness Testimony, Richard Bauckham, 2006. Erdman. Now, Bauckham goes into his book and he then gives more detail about how how he proves that the Gospels are actually based on eyewitness material. He then goes, for example, if we go to Mark chapter 1 verse 16 to 18. Mark chapter 1 verse 16 to 18. Now as he walked by the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and Andrew his brother casting a net in the sea, for they were fishers. And Jesus said unto them, Come ye after me, and I will make you become fishers of men. Straightway they forsook their nets and followed him. Now, what Bauckham noticed there is, as you look at ancient historians, the way they wrote biography and history in the time of Jesus and in that period of history, basically they would have what would called an inclusion, and what that would mean is they would have a beginning, middle and end in their writing of the person. The beginning of the person, the middle of the person's life, and the end of the person. But in between they would show that they're looking at the perspective of certain people within their writing, and to introduce that they would have an inclusion, putting someone in who they would indicate that they're writing their history from that particular perspective. And we get hints of that in the mentioning of women, so they would be looking at the women's perspective in Luke chapter 16-17, Luke chapter 8 verse 1 and 3, chapter 10 verse 1 to 20, chapter 19 verse 37, chapter 23 verse 49, 24 verse 9, 24 verse 33. Let's just look at that. Let's look at Luke 8 verse 1 to 11. And it came to pass afterwards that he went through at every city and village, preaching and showing the glad tidings of the kingdom of God. And the 12 were with him, and a certain woman which had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities, Mary called Magdalene, out of whom went 7 devils, and Joanna the wife of Chuza, Herod's steward, and Susanna, and many others which ministered unto him of their substance. So there is an example of how the writer's indicating that where he's getting his source material from for writing his life. We can look at Luke chapter 24 verse 6 and 7, Acts chapter 1:15, Acts chapter 21:23. This kind of similar methodology of indicating where your source materials come from is found in Lucian's life of Alexander and Porphyry's life of Plotinus. This is in Bauckham's page 137. And the way they write is very similar to the Gospels, page 138 in Bauckham. Important note, read an article 1925 by Cuthbert Turner. He goes into this ancient writers, and it was overlooked in gospel studies. So have a look at the scholar Cuthbert Turner 1925 article on ancient writers and the Gospels, I think. Bauckham notices how we can tell there's eyewitness material in the Gospels by some of the methods these ancient historians wrote, such as internal focalization. Page 163. Studies of point of view in Mark have missed the plural to singular narrative device, characteristic though it is of Mark's Gospel. It is a form of internal focalization which, as we have argued, endows the readers with the view of the incident from the perspective of the disciple who arrived on the scene with Jesus. So we have, that's page 163. We have Mark chapter 2 verse 2 and 12. Mark chapter 2 verse 2 to 12. Straightway many were gathered together, insomuch that there was no room to receive them, not so much as about the door. And he preached the word unto them. And they come unto him, bringing one. And when they could not, they uncovered the roof where he was. And when they had broken it up, when Jesus saw their faith, he said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, thy sins are forgiven thee. But there were certain of the scribes sitting there. Why does this man thus speak blasphemous? Who can forgive sins but God only? And immediately when Jesus perceived in his spirit that they so reasoned within themselves, he said unto them, Why reason ye these things in your hearts? Whether it is easier to say to the sick of the palsy, Thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, Arise and take up thy bed and walk. But that you may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins, he said unto the sick of the palsy, I say unto thee, Arise, take up thy bed, and go thy way into the house. And immediately he arose, took up his bed, and went forth before them all, inasmuch as they were all amazed, and glorified God, saying, We never saw it on this fashion. So you could have a look for internal focalization in Mark chapter 2 verse 2 to 12, Mark chapter 3 verse 1 to 6, Mark chapter 5 verse 21 to 43, Mark chapter 6 to 6a, and chapter 6 verse 47 to 52, chapter 9 verse 14 to 29. Excuse me. Well, again, he reiterates that the Gospels are written in the way that the ancient historians wrote, and he backs that up in page 120 in I don't know what page it is, but it's round about the it's round about past page 180, and he quotes Josephus. Quoting Josephus, I on the contrary have written very cautious account, at one comprehensive and detailed, of the war, having been present in person at all the events. And then on Agrippa he writes from the beginning. So again, Bauckham is saying that he's written that the Gospels, again mirroring the way ancient writers wrote, that they looked for eyewitness material. Okay, that's a 500-page book. I've only covered about 180 pages of Bauckham, okay, on Jesus and the eyewitnesses. We're now just going to look at some notes of some of his lectures, and then we'll conclude there. Okay.